talked about the art of attraction, how to attract someone to you, and how to attract the right type of person to you. And tonight we're going to talk about the art of dating. Isn't dating a pain? Amen? All right. A couple girls, a couple guys, everybody else are like, no, it's all right, it's good, hey, this is okay. And the reason that dating is such a pain is because that you just can't, dating is a hard thing to figure out. There's some people that will spend their whole lives trying to get dates and never will. And then there's some people that they get dates left and right and they're going out with everybody and yet they haven't figured it out. Dating's difficult because when you go on a date, you think to yourself, what should I talk about? And then there's that proverbial, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I'm so stupid. Have you guys ever done that? Or maybe I should talk less, or where should we go, or what should we do? And so we went out and we just asked people. We spent a little bit of our day-to-day yesterday just asking people, what do you do on dates, and what kind of dates do you enjoy going on, and this kind of thing. So check out what some ladies said. All right. So what is it that you find attractive in a person? When you're on a date, what are the things that that make you go, oh, that was a great date? Have you thought about that? And maybe you're sitting here tonight and you're going, oh, this is a single talk. No, this is not a single talk. Because once you start dating and then once you get married, you should never, ever stop. Dating is a great thing. Dating is a good thing. But I hang around with guys, and I have a friend that, man, this guy is like, he's one of the best looking guys I know. And that you look at him and you think, that's the kind of guy I would like to be like, and this guy can't get a date to save his life. I have another friend that he's the opposite. You're thinking to yourself, thank God I didn't come out like that. And this guy gets more dates than anybody I know. He is very smooth, and girls like him. And so dating's kind of a crazy thing. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to check out these two couples and their date. They're going to go on a date, and we're going to read about it. And we're going to check it out, and we're going to see what happens and how it works. And so if you flip over your Bibles to Song of Songs, chapter 1, verse 8, we're going to read down through 2, verse 7. And it says this. It says, if you do not know, O beautiful woman. Let me fill you in on this. She has asked where she could meet him. And she said, what we found out about this young girl's character was that she has really good character. And he's a rich guy. And because he's a rich guy, he has a lot of flocks and a lot of herds. And so his herds are traveling across the valley. And along with his herds have come a bunch of women prostitutes. And she doesn't want to be recognized or known as one. And so she's saying, hey, where can I meet you so that I don't have to hang out with that type of crowd? And this was his response. If you don't know, O most beautiful woman, follow the trail of my flocks to the shepherd's tents, and there feed your young goats. What a lovely filly you are. I think you guys should use that line. When we're talking about lines, you should use that one. You are one hot filly. My beloved one, how lovely your cheeks with your earrings setting them afire. So not just beautiful cheeks, with her earrings setting them afire. How stately is your neck, accented with a long string of jewels. Some of you ladies are like, oh, I'm just melting. We will make earrings of gold for you and beads of silver. Then the woman replies, she says, oh, the king is lying on the couch, enchanted by the fragrance of my perfume. My lover is like a sachet of myrrh lying between my breasts. He is like a bouquet of flowers in the garden of En-gedi. My beloved, how beautiful your eyes. Your eyes are like soft doves. What a lovely, pleasant sight you are, my love, as we lie here on the grass, shaded by cedar trees and spreading firs. Then it goes on to chapter 2, and it says, I am the rose of Sharon, the lily of the valley. Yes, compared to other women, my beloved is like a lily among thorns. And compared to other youth, my lover is like the finest apple tree in the orchard. Now that's a compliment. I am seated in his delightful shade, and his fruit is delicious to me to eat. He brings me to the banquet hall so everyone can see how much he loves me. Oh, feed me with your love and your raisins and your apples, for I am utterly lovesick. His left hand is under my head, and his right hand embraces me. Promise me, O woman of Jerusalem, by the swift gazelle and the deer of the wild, not to awaken love until the time is right. So check this out. Here's what happened. She called to him, and she said, hey, dude, where are you hanging out? And he said, hey, we're over here in this valley. Come on over. Come hang out with us. And she said, very cool. I'll be there. And so she hangs out, and she makes her way there, and she goes past all the gates. And then her and him, they go on this picnic, and they're hanging out underneath these shade trees. And as they're hanging out underneath these shade trees, we're going to check this out. They start making out. That is basically what you're seeing here, is that this couple goes on a date, things get a little hot and heavy, they start making out in like the open, in the valley. And some of you guys are like, oh, cool. And so there's three things that I want you to write down right off the bat. That when we're talking about love, that I believe that for love to grow, every dating relationship has to cultivate these three things. And they're just really quick. They're just really simple. The first thing is that a good, loving relationship has to cultivate quality time. That a good, loving relationship cultivates time, that you spend time together. You like being together. If you are in a relationship that is geared off of passion and not time, you're in a wrong relationship. And eventually the passion will die out. But if you're in a relationship where you like to spend time together, that'll just grow and the passion will grow more. But it'll end up being a great relationship. The second thing that you want to grow is you want to nourish your relationship. Every good relationship takes care of the person in the relationship. They just nurture it. They take care of it. They nurture something. Have you guys ever nurtured something? Have you guys ever tried to grow something? I do not grow things well. And I have no idea what happened to me. But about 2 years ago, I went and put a lawn in my yard. And I know that this is a sign of me getting older, because now I worry about if my lawn is going to be green. Like when I was like 19, 20, I didn't care if I had green lawn or not. I just wanted to stay out till like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's what I nurtured. I nurtured friendships. Now that I'm 37, when I go out of town, I find somebody just to take care of my lawn, and if they can't do it right, I come back in town a day early because I want to have green grass. I water it twice a day, mornings and evenings, just to make sure that it's nice and green, so that when I walk outside, my neighbors will look at me and go, "Hey, dude, that's the guy with the green grass. Isn't he bad?" I walk around, "Yeah, I got a little swagger. What's going on?" But you grow. Here's the point. Whatever you nurture, you will grow. If you nurture a bad attitude, you'll grow a bad attitude. If you nurture distance, that you like to keep people at a distance, you may not have many relationships because that's what you're nurturing. Whatever you are nurturing is what you're growing. And then the third one is this. For love to grow, a couple must show restraint. A couple that does not show restraint will only drive their relationship into the ground. That for love to really grow, a couple has to learn to be able to show restraint. And in relationships, that is a hard thing to do. That's a big deal. And so as we're going through this, I want to walk you back through each verse by verse, section by section. If you don't know, O most beautiful woman, follow the trails of my flock to the shepherd's tents, and there feed your young goats. What a lovely filly you are, my beloved one. Here's what he was saying, because in a dating relationship, the thing that you want to do, as well as you do anything else, is you want to communicate value to the person. Love always communicates value. Here's what he was saying, that in those times, the king had one white horse. And that white horse led him in armies. That white horse led them in parades. That white horse was almost considered a goddess or a god. That white horse was considered sacred. And what he was saying was this. He was saying that you, my sweetheart, are so valuable to me. That you are like my filly, my young filly. You are the most precious thing I have. That you are so beautiful. And then she returns and she says this. She says, you, my lover, is like a sachet of myrrh lying between my breasts. And what she used to do was this. So he had this beautiful horse that he took great pride in. And that women would take very expensive perfume and they would put it on a necklace and it would set between their breasts and it just put off this immense odor that was just beautiful. But the other side that it did is it set close to their heart. And it signified value. And what these guys were doing, they were exchanging this romantic thing of saying, boy, I am so in love with you. That I am in love with you and I value you. I value you. Every good relationship communicates value. Here's one of the things. I want you guys to catch this. If you're in a relationship, that the person that you're in a relationship should become your buddy, your friend. Because a person that you value is somebody that you hold close and you love to be around them and that you love to hang out. And that when they call or when they come over, you're not like, oh, she's driving me crazy. That is not value. That there should be this thing that you love to be around each other and that you communicate that. Love is not a competition for attention. You see, anytime we get into a relationship and we become and feel like we have to commit or compete for the person that we love's attention, we need to check the values of our relationship. You should not ever feel like you are competing for the person's you love's attention. There should be no competition there. The second thing that I believe that happens in the art of dating is this, is that love complements each other. Have you ever been around people that are in love they're almost annoying. Amen? Amen? That when you get around people that are in love, they're almost annoying. He says this, he says, how beautiful you are, my beloved. How beautiful. Your eyes are soft like doves. People that are in love constantly compliment each other. Like, man, you're so beautiful. Oh, and they have pet names for each other. Have you noticed that about people that are in love? Hey, sweetie pie. Hey, stud muffin. And he walks around and he's just like, yeah. Now, like, if you were hanging out with the boys and they called you stud muffin, that's reason to beat up a friend. I'm just telling you. You're hanging out with the boys and they call you stud. I was in a meeting yesterday. And I'm in this meeting, and I should not confess this. Oh, what am I doing? All right, I'm in this meeting yesterday, and it was a pretty intense meeting. And there's this lady that she came in to do some training. And she says, you know what, you and I are kind of the same. I said, oh yeah, how do you mean? She said, well, you are kind of like a Susie cheesecake. I'm like, I'm not getting this. She says this with Ronnie Higuera standing right next to me. All day long, he'd just walk by and whisper, hey, Susie's cheesecake. And I'm like, so I had to go back to her and I said, now what does that mean? Why did you call me Susie Cheesecake? And she said, well, I was just trying to say you're kind of an all-American guy. And I'm like, I don't want to be an all-American guy. I want to be like, dude, that's the baddest dude around. He is a stud of a guy, not a stud muffin, a stud of a guy. He is manly beyond all get out. And so all day long that happened to me. But you see, when people are in love, they compliment each other and they come up with some of the stupidest names for each other. But all of a sudden, those stupid names take on like this great appearance. And you know why? Here's why. Because love compliments. Love opens doors for each other. Love compliments. That you're in love. That when you're in love, sugar plum is a great term. Some of you guys right now, you're probably even thinking of those terms that you have for each other or those words that you have for each other. And when my wife calls, sometimes I pick up the phone and I hardly ever say, hey, Linnea. I just don't. She's my wife. When I look over and I see that she's calling, I'm like, hey, sweetheart, how are you doing? Sometimes I will refer to her whenever I pick up the phone, hey, gorgeous, how are you? Sometimes it's just, hey, beautiful, what's going on? And the reason why is because not only do I want to compliment her, but I compliment her because she compliments me. Does that make sense? She compliments me with love. She compliments me with kindness and compassion and caring. And that here's what happens. That right now, some of you guys are in the room. You are the luckiest people in the room because you're in a relationship. And I'm watching this happen from the stage. There's just like this. You're awesome. It's good to be married. It's good to be married. And that love compliments. Love makes you feel better. The third thing that I want you to write down is this. Is that the art of dating. So if you're trying to figure out dating, one, you've learned to compliment each other. But a great art is love spends time together with no strings attached. That people who are in love should not be disappointed to go home. That love should love to spend time together with no strings attached. And here's what I mean by no strings attached. That you trying to do things to get them to mow the lawn. You know, that's a string attached. Or you're trying to do something, you're being really sweet so they'll take you on a date. It shouldn't be a force to spend time together. Love should be this pleasant, amazing thing. She looks over at him and she says, what a lovely, pleasant sight you are, my love. As we lie here on the grass, shaded by the cedar trees and spreading firs. So get this. They're on a picnic, and they're just hanging out, and they're loving just being together. A couple months ago, I was hanging out with my daughter, and we did a date night. And we went out and we got something to eat, and we were sitting in line, and she said, "Wait a second, is this where you used to go with Mom?" I said, No, I picked this place because I thought it'd be important to you. And she turned to me and she said, "Nope, that's not what we're doing tonight. Tonight, what we're doing is whatever you used to do with your mom, whatever the date that you used to take her on, I want to go on that date." And I went, "What?" And she said, "I want to go on that date." I said, "Okay." So we ran up North Avenue. We walked into Domino's Pizza. We got a pizza to go. Because at 17 years of age, I was a big spender. Cost us $9. And we got a 6-pack of Coke. We drove out to the Duck Pond Park. And we ate the pizza under a tree and just talked. And then when we were done, we started rolling down the hills. And we rolled down the hills for probably an hour and a half, and all we did was laugh. And then we chugged this big thing of Coca-Cola. We each took one and we popped it open. We're drinking it as fast as we can. And then at the very end, you had to hold it in your mouth and then roll down the hill and see if you could keep it in. And by the time we were done, we had bruises all over our body. And then we went and played miniature golf, and we went and got ice cream, and we went home. And that was it. But you know what? Here's the key. Is that when you're in love, you can go on a date with $1 and have the best time of your life. But when you're in a relationship that you don't like being in, not even $1 million will make it worth it. Isn't that interesting? Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever seen that? That there's relationships, and you watch this all the time. You watch it in Hollywood all the time. These people have all the money in the world and absolutely the most miserable people in the world. That money does not define happiness. And ladies, you need to catch this. Because I know that for ladies, there is a real super need for security. And sometimes, ladies, you will settle in relationships because there's financial security, but you are not secure in your relationship. And you're choosing financial security over a loving, godly relationship that provides you a godly man with godly security. One of the first things we saw in the video when they asked about a date, what do you look for in a date? One of the very first things right off the bat, a young lady said, a guy with money. It doesn't necessarily answer all the questions, but it answers a lot of them. The guys, ladies, money's not the answer. That it comes back to security. Are you in a relationship with somebody that loves God? And I believe this, that if you are in a relationship with somebody that honestly, truly loves God, you will be in the best relationship you can be because of their love for God. They will love you the way that they should love you. Linnea and we used to go to this little taco shop. It was about a block from our house. And at the end of a week on a paycheck, we'd have about $3.50. And we had the choice when we first got married to either rent a movie or go and have dinner together. But we didn't have enough to buy dinner. We only had enough to buy one super hot burrito covered in chili and cheese. $3.50. And the enjoyment and the entertainment value was just watching the other person eat it because this thing was so hot. And that would be good for like a week. We were happy. And you see what happens is this, is that when you are in a relationship that is loving, that these guys are sitting underneath these trees and they're on this picnic and they're in love with each other, that all of a sudden a good godly relationship that has love in it will also bring exactly what ladies are looking for: security. That love brings security. That's what happens with love. Check this out. Now, if you remember this same girl who wrote in chapter 1, she said, I am dark-skinned. What happened was that I don't know if she came from a poor family or if she just came from a family that was kind of abusive, and lots of people come from both those kinds of families. I mean, even in this room, we could say that there's quite a few people that were in those segments growing up. But her brothers didn't respect her, and they sent her off to work in a field, which was absolutely an insult if you were a woman of her time. And that by working in the field, her skin had really darkened up, and in her society, a girl with lighter skin was praised. That was a benefactor. That was something that guys looked for. And so she was not that. She was a girl of dark skin. And her skin had weathered, and she looked older than she really was. And she said in the first chapter, she said, oh, please don't look at me because of my skin. And she was saying, don't look at me. And now check this out. In chapter 2, she turns around and she says these words. She says, I am the rose of Sharon, the lily of the valley. Yes, compared to other women, my beloved is like a lily among thorns. This is what he's saying about her. And then she turns around and she says, and compared to other youth, my lover is like the finest apple tree in the orchard. I am seated in the delight of his shade, and the fruit is delicious to eat. He brings me to the banquet hall so everyone can see how much he loves me. That he says these words to her. He says, compared to other women, she's like a lily among thorns. That he is so in love that he has just told her how beautiful she is all the time. You are beautiful. You are so beautiful. That I imagine that they're together all the time, and that when they're together, he's just like, man, you are gorgeous. You look great tonight. She comes out in some old thing, and he's like, wow, where did you get that? That's amazing. And she's like, this is just this old thing? And he's like, yeah, baby, that looks good. Anything on you looks good. And he's just told her she's beautiful until finally what happens is that she begins to believe it. She begins to go, really, you think so? Oh, yeah. And you know what? And she's telling him, he's handsome. He's the best tree in the orchard. That if I could go out and pick one tree, it would be you. And that all of a sudden what happens is they keep complimenting each other and falling in love with each other and telling each other how wonderful they are. And then they begin to believe it. And then it creates this security. That you think she's wondering if he's off with a bunch of women? I don't think so. You think that he's wondering where she's spending her time in the middle of the day? I don't think so. That these two are in love, and when you do love right, when you do dating right and properly, that it doesn't create insecurity, it creates security. And then what happens is amongst that security, it becomes the desire of your heart to want to go home. That I watch guys all the time, and they're like, I'm like, hey, what are you doing? You going home? Oh, no, dude, I'm going to the gym. And you get around them long enough, and you figure out that they've got home problems. That they don't want to go home. That they'd rather be with their buddies than be with their wife. Maybe you get the same thing with the girls. That she would rather hang out and work a couple extra hours than go home. Why? Because there's no security. They have eroded each other's foundations. And for all of a sudden, we live in a society where relationships do not complement each other. They erode each other. Have you watched that happen? That what has happened in the past 15 years is that women having cheating upon their husbands is just off the charts. It is growing 3 times faster than guys cheating on their wives. Why? Because these women do not feel secure, and a person who does not feel secure will find security. That is just the way it is. That if people do not feel secure, they will find themselves in a relationship to feel secure, because nobody wants to go through life with insecurity. Amen? And that's what happens. And so he goes on, he says, you are the rose of Sharon, the lily of the valley. He loves her. And what happens is because of this, she feels not only love and security, but she knows that this guy doesn't just love her, but this guy is the guy who would protect her. Every woman needs to feel safe. Every woman needs to feel safe. They need to feel like this guy would protect me. Years ago, my wife and I were on, I think we were on our 3rd or 4th anniversary, and we were downtown Denver. And I love downtown Denver. I'm a guy that loves nightlife. I could hang out on the 16th Street Mall in the summertime till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I just love it. I love being around people. I know that like the longer you're down there, the weirder the people get. I love to just sit there and just watch people. I was there with Tim here about 3 years ago, and we were sitting in this little restaurant, and we're eating pretzels and root beer. You guys are like, yeah, root beer. It really was. It was root beer. And as we're sitting there, we're eating pretzels and we're hanging out, all of a sudden, cops come in from everywhere and draw down on this guy. And it was like 15 feet away, and we were like, you couldn't have paid for seats that good. It was great. But we're downtown, and I'm hanging out, and we're on our 3rd anniversary, and as we get there, this guy walks up to me, and he puts a knife. He pulls out this, and it was like, when I say a knife, it might as well have been a Bic. It was like this big. And he pulls this thing out, and he puts it in my side. And he says, hey, mister. I'm like, what? He said, I'm here to protect you tonight. And he is blitzed out of his mind. I'm here to protect you tonight. I was like, hey, look at this. We got a date, and we got security, too. Hey, I've got more money than I think. And all of a sudden, we're sitting there, and Linnea's eyes get really big. And I said, well, hey, well, look, cool. Why don't you walk with us? And he's walking with us because he's got a knife in my side. And I said, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to walk down here, but instead of walking down, why don't we just jump on this bus? He goes, okay. And so the bus comes. He's got a knife in my side. And as we jump, we get on the bus. All of a sudden, I look at my wife, and he has moved himself around to my back, and Linnea's here, and Linnea's terrified. And I look at her, and I say, okay, on the count of 3, follow my lead. And on the count of 3, this guy's sitting there, and he's like, I'm here. I'm your protection. I'm gonna protect you tonight. Okay, thanks, man. I've got my arms around my wife. I said, okay, 1, 2, 3. On the count of 3, we like jump off the bus, and the doors close, and he like goes down the road, and he's like, hey, man, what happened? And she was like, whoa, good move. I was feeling like a stud. I know it would have been better if I would have beat him up or something cool like that, but I was like, that was smart thinking. But here's the deal. Is that, here's what she says. She says, I am seated in delight in his shade. What she is saying is this. I know that this guy's going to protect me. I can relax. I can sit underneath this tree and just totally relax because, man, my life is good. I found security in the person I love. I'm not worried about where he's at. You see, people only start looking when the person they're with stops looking at them. And people shouldn't have to wonder. In the heart of every person is the need to be loved and feel secure. And that dating shouldn't just be the thing you do to get married. Dating should be the thing that you do till you're 85 years of age because you're in love with your spouse. You found security. You found somebody who compliments you and makes you a better person. And so it comes down to the very end, and get the picture. Get the picture that they're sitting underneath these trees, and all of a sudden they begin to romanticize and get romantic. And so check this out, because I believe that love should create sexual desires. That a good, loving relationship should cause sexual desires to just burn in you. All right? We're going to talk about that. And so she says this. She says, oh, feed me with your love, your raisins and your apples. You think that this is romantic? See, maybe you have the picture that she's saying, feed me raisins and apples, almost like you would feed grapes. All right? That's kind of romantic. But let me take this up just a notch. Let me take this up just a hair. She's brought apples and raisins to the picnic. Apples and raisins in their time period was known as aphrodisiacs. She is wanting to get this guy hot and bothered. That is what's going on here. She's feeling good about their relationship, and she is setting the mood to get his juices flowing. She's setting the mood to get him hot and bothered. We'll say it that way. You guys can figure it out yourself. And she says this, "Oh, feed me with your love, your raisins and your apples." Yeah, right. "For I am utterly lovesick." And then catch this. "His left hand is under my head, and his right hand embraces me." I want you to catch the picture of this. Because if you take this from a conservative Christian view of theology, what is going on here is his left hand is under her head, and his right hand has embraced her, and they're kissing passionately. They are like totally making out. If you take this from a more liberal point of view, his left hand is under her head, and his right hand is not on her back. The latter is more traditional. That is what they believe is going on here, is that he has his hands on her head, and he has his other hand other places. And I want you guys to hear this. That God designed sexual relationships. God designed relationships. And he designed the sexual part of them. And it is good. And a relationship should cause sexual desire. It should. But then check out what happens next. He says, "Promise me, O woman of Jerusalem, by the swift gazelles and the deer of the wild." That must be some promise. I'm just not thinking I would ever use those words. He says, "Promise me not to awaken love until at the right time." Now, remember, okay, we need to walk back a step for this. Because what you need to remember is, she's a woman of virtue. She is not like this trampy prostitute woman that's hanging out with the sheep. Remember, we already studied this, and we know that this is a woman with high morals and high character. So how did this happen? How did they get here? Here's how it happens. Because, you see, God designed women in such a way that the ultimate act of love for them is to give their body to a man. That's it. That is a good thing. And that when a woman's desires are brought forth, and she feels love, and she feels secure, and she feels complimented, and she feels safe, that she is willing to give her body to the right man. And she looked at Solomon and said, "You're the right man." And so you see, I want you guys to take a tip. Listen, guys. Solomon steps back because he's a godly man. And you see, and I believe this. I believe that it's every bit of the woman's responsibility to watch how she dresses and watch how she acts around a guy and take care of herself. But guys, just because it comes to the moment and the woman says, "I'm willing, this is okay," does not mean that we're to bear the fruit. We're to go for it. Solomon stepped back and said, "Hey, the time's not right." And that it is a godly man. And you know what that does? Because some of you guys are like, "Whoa, I may never get that chance again." Seize the day. Carpe diem. What are my buddies going to think? Well, if you're a man of character, you're not going to tell your buddies what's going on between you and your girlfriend. But you see what? You know what happens? Is that when you act right in your relationship, not only do you create more security and more love, but she walks away and goes, "Wow, this guy is a real guy of integrity. This guy is a real guy of character. This is the guy for me." And it creates better momentum in your relationship. And so he turns around and he says, "Promise me, O woman of Jerusalem,
by the swift gazelles and the deer of the wild, not to awaken love until the time is right. How many of you guys have a house or have had a house that has a fireplace in it? How many of you guys have made a fire in that fireplace? Go ahead, raise your hands real high. Did your house burn down? Some of you are like, yeah, well, as a matter of fact, it did. No, the chances are that it didn't burn down. The chances are so much better that it didn't burn down because the fire was where it was supposed to be. You see, you take a relationship, and you take that relationship, and maybe all these things are going really good, and all these things are going really good, and you guys know what I'm talking about. And then it crosses the lines of the sexual relationship before it gets to the marriage relationship. So the sexual relationship is going crazy outside of the marriage relationship. And you know what happens? Is that pretty soon that relationship burns down. Because the relationship had passion and fire, which God intended, but it wasn't in the right location. And I'm going to challenge you that if you want to have a relationship that honors God, keep the passion in the right location. And men, be men that honor God. And create love and security and compliments for your lady. And ladies, be women that honor God. It's already tough enough for guys. Guys have it tough. Amen, guys? Ladies, don't make it any tougher. All right? We're going to invite the worship team to come on back up. We're going to close out with one last song. And then when we're done, we're going to catch some food in the back. We ordered about a dozen pizzas back there, and we'd love for you to come on back and grab some food and hang out to get to know each other. And I'm going to put out a special invitation. If you are here and you are either engaged or married, I would like for you to come to the back, and I would like to get to know you. I would like for you to know that this is a place for couples. This is a place to grow love and to honor God. This is a place to come and meet other couples who are living a life that honors God. And this is a place where you can come and make friends. All right? God bless you guys. Thank you so much for coming.